We want them to know that God delights in them, that they have great dignity in who they are as a person, that they're valuable, they're important to us. More importantly, they're important to God.
Having a support system and people cheering you on that you're somebody and that you mean something to someone and they want to see you succeed.
If I go to sleep every night and I wake up every day, I still have hope to make it another day. So there's a lot of support with the counselors. They're like, just give yourself a chance. It gets better. Just give yourself a chance.
In Canada, homeless people don't just fight the cold, they also fight the indifferent gaze of society. Some sleep under bank awnings, others huddle by bus stops, heads bowed as if to disappear from the world. No one chooses to end up here. Life pushes them there, and then people turn away as if they've fallen. What they need most isn't spare change or moralizing. They need to be seen, to be heard, to know that they're still human in a world that's too fast and too cold. A warm word, a non-judgmental look, a hand extended at the right moment. Sometimes it's enough to pull them back from the edge of despair. No one can survive on nothing but contempt, and no one can overcome the darkness if all around them are turned off. Canada is vast, winters are long, but people's hearts can make it warmer. Because sometimes, what keeps them alive isn't a roof over their heads. It's the feeling that someone still believes they can stand up again.
Welcome to U.S. Homeless Stories.
The scale of the homeless crisis. Los Angeles' home severe. It's collapsing in ways most people never witness. Behind the billboards and the world unraveling in slow motion. When the 2025 count reported 72,308 individuals, it barely touched the truth. Anyone walking the streets at dawn sees the real picture. The crisis is spreading faster, pulling people past their breaking point. What makes it terrifying is how quickly normal. Many sleeping on sidewalks today were paying rent last year. When housing costs swallow more than half a person's income, it becomes devastating. A layoff, a medical bill, a sudden rent hike. These moments hit like silent earthquakes, shattering lives that once felt stable. And the climb back up feels impossible. Across LA's vast landscape, entire blocks have become survival zones. Under freeway overpasses, the air grows heavy with exhaustion. People huddle inside to sleep against cold concrete wrapped in sun-bleached blanket. Along the Hollywood to downtown corridor, every sidewalk tells the same story. People clutching the last packs, old photos, worn shoes, hoping they won't lose them overnight. Emergency crews witness what the city tries to ignore. Last year, more than 23,000 calls came from homelessness-related danger, human limits pushed too far. Shelters overflow within minutes, leaving hundreds outside with nowhere to go. Cold nights are the worst. Through the alleys, and people try to sleep sitting upright to avoid slipping into dangerous exhaustion. This crisis keeps shifting, fueled by unbearable fragile mental health systems, and gaps too wide for people to cross. These are their snapshots of a city quietly failing its most vulnerable. To you, hit subscribe to U.S. Homeless Stories. Your support keeps these realities from being forgotten. Life or death moments in narrow alleys. In Canada, many narrow alleys have become quiet hotspots of the country's drug crisis. In Vancouver's Downtown Eastside, people battling homelessness and addiction gather in tight, rain-soaked spaces where discarded foil, burnt wrappers, and scattered supplies reveal a daily struggle. Outreach workers here deal with dangerous reactions to toxic street drugs almost every day, rushing in with oxygen, naloxone, and basic medical care to stabilize people before the situation worsens. Toronto's hidden backstreets face the same pressure. In the alleys around Kensington Market and Parkdale, freezing temperatures mix with unpredictable substances. putting people at high risk of drug toxicity emergencies. Harm reduction teams patrol these areas through the night, stepping in when someone becomes disoriented, unresponsive, or suddenly overwhelmed by the strength of contaminated opioids. Montreal's frozen alleys add another layer of danger. In Old Montreal, drugs cut with unstable chemicals have triggered more emergency calls than ever. Cold air pockets make it harder for individuals to stay alert if they're experiencing a strong reaction, and many turn to substances simply to numb trauma or emotional pain, never knowing what they're actually consuming. Even in these harsh corners, moments of humanity still matter. Volunteers stop, talk, and help people breathe steadily. Someone calls for assistance instead of walking past. A warm drink or clean supply kit often gives a person the strength to hold on a little longer. If these truths move you, hit subscribe to US Homeless Stories and follow us as we uncover the real crisis unfolding in Canada's streets and alleys. Streets full of trash, damp smells, and weary footsteps. In Canada's largest cities, the streets reveal a side of life most people never stop long enough to notice. In Vancouver, constant rain turns sidewalks into long stretches of damp pavement, where blankets, clothes, and tents lie soaked for days. The smell of wet fabric and cold concrete lingers in the air, and people move slowly as they try to protect what little they have from another downpour. When everything you own is always wet, even walking can feel like a quiet battle to stay warm and keep going. Toronto adds its own layer of struggle. Winter doesn't just arrive, it takes over. Trash, belongings, and abandoned clothing freeze to the ground, forming solid patches of ice around places like Moss Park and Trinity Bellwoods. Jackets stiffen, carts freeze into snowbanks, and the sidewalks become a mix of frost and exhaustion. Cleanup crews work constantly, but the cold always returns faster than they can keep up. For those living outside, each night becomes a test of strength against temperatures that bite through every layer. In Montreal, heavy snowfalls bury whole encampments within hours. Tents collapse under the weight, trash freezes into strange shapes, and slushy paths turn into dangerous, slippery stretches. Outreach teams walk through freezing winds to check on people hidden inside collapsed shelters, hoping they're still awake, still responsive. It's moments like these that show how thin the line can be between making it through the night. Across Vancouver, Toronto, Montreal, and other cities, the trash-filled sidewalks, damp smells, and weary footsteps represent something far more human than clutter. They are quiet reminders of thousands fighting to hold on, hoping someone will notice their struggle before it's too late. If you had to walk these streets every day, which part of this reality would hit you the hardest? Share your thoughts in the comments. And if you want to follow more real, unfiltered stories from across Canada, make sure to hit subscribe so you never miss the next chapter. The loneliness, when no one looks back at them. Loneliness is one of the heaviest burdens for people experiencing homelessness in Canada. On the busy sidewalks of Toronto, Vancouver, Montreal, and Calgary, thousands walk past them every day, but very few ever look back. Outreach workers say many unhoused individuals can go weeks without hearing their own names spoken, and that silence slowly eats away at their sense of being human. For many, loneliness began long before they lost their homes. In Vancouver's Downtown Eastside, people who once had families or steady jobs now face each day alone, separated by addiction, mental health struggles, or the impossibility of paying rent. In Montreal, older adults, many over 55 and up, sleep on benches or in crowded shelters, carrying memories of the lives they once lived, but no longer have space to share. Indigenous individuals in Winnipeg and Edmonton feel this isolation even more intensely. Leaving remote communities for urban centers, they often face discrimination and cultural disconnect, making their loneliness deeper than just circumstance. Even inside shelters, the feeling doesn't always disappear. Dozens of people can sleep inches apart, yet still feel miles away from real connection. Staff try to help, but the sheer volume of need makes emotional support hard to sustain. Still, small sparks of hope remain. Peer support groups in Toronto, storytelling circles in Montreal, and community art programs in Vancouver offer moments where people feel seen again, not as statistics, but as human beings with stories that matter. Loneliness may be powerful, but recognition is stronger. Sometimes a simple greeting can remind someone they still exist in the world's eyes. If this story connects with you, subscribe to US Homeless Stories to follow more real, human stories from across Canada. Visibility and causes. The visibility of homelessness across Canada isn't just growing, it's becoming impossible to ignore. Walk through Vancouver's East Hastings on a cold morning, and you'll see tents pressed tightly against storefronts, their tarps fluttering in the damp breeze. People step out, shivering, clutching blankets still soaked from the night's rain. These aren't scenes from someplace distant. They are unfolding in one of the wealthiest cities in the country, where the average one-bedroom apartment now costs more than many working Canadians can afford. A single missed paycheck, a medical emergency, or the end of a lease can push someone straight into the streets. Toronto tells a similar story. Shelters filled weeks in advance force thousands to sleep near ravines, subway vents, and crowded parks like Allen Gardens. When night falls, you can hear the rustle of plastic bags, the hum of passing cars, and the quiet resignation of people who once believed they'd only be outside for a day or two, until days turned into months. Montreal's encampments along Notre Dame Street feel even heavier during deep winter, when the air drops below 20 degrees Celsius, and every breath turns into a cloud. Here, people don't just fight poverty. They fight the cold, a cold so sharp it feels personal. But these scenes didn't appear out of nowhere. The crisis is rooted in years of rising rents, stagnant wages, and limited housing supply, pressures that overwhelm cities faster than they can build shelters or affordable units. Immigration surges add further strain, especially in Toronto and Montreal, where new arrivals scramble for the same limited spaces. Indigenous communities, already carrying generations of systemic harm, remain disproportionately affected. And in Alberta, the collapse of oil-driven jobs pushed countless workers into sudden instability they never imagined facing. Behind every tent is a human story. Someone who once paid rent, held a job, had a routine, had hope. The dark truth is that homelessness in Canada is no longer hidden. It's on sidewalks, under bridges and parks, and in the corners people walk past too quickly. And if we pretend not to see it, nothing will ever change. If these stories make you pause, even for a moment, consider joining us on this journey. Your engagement matters. Hit subscribe to US Homeless Stories, leave your thoughts in the comments, and help bring more attention to the lies behind these difficult realities. Every view, every conversation, every share helps shine a light on those who can't always speak for themselves. Soup kitchens and volunteer groups, keeping hope alive. Across Canada's cold, crowded streets, where the nights feel longer and the silence cuts deeper, soup kitchens and volunteer groups have become sanctuaries for people fighting to stay warm, safe, and seen. Step inside one of these places in Toronto, Vancouver, Montreal, or Calgary, and the contrast is immediate. Outside, the air bites at your skin. Inside, the room fills with the smell of warm soup and the soft hum of human compassion. People arrive with tired eyes, shivering hands, and the weight of countless unspoken struggles. Yet the moment a volunteer greets them with a simple, "Glad you're here," you can almost see a small piece of their burden lift. At Toronto's Daily Bread Food Bank, volunteers begin before dawn, washing produce, boiling huge pots of stew, and preparing for waves of families, seniors, and newcomers who line up hours before opening. Many arrive after skipping meals for days. In Vancouver's Union Gospel Mission, the line stretches around the block in rain or freezing wind, as people wait not only for food, but for safety, warmth, and a rare moment of kindness. Montreal's Old Brewery Mission transforms into a lifeline during harsh winter nights, offering hot meals and cots to those who would not survive the cold. And in Calgary's Drop-In Center, thousands rely on daily meals, blankets, and conversations that remind them they still matter. What makes these places powerful is not only the food, it's the humanity woven into every gesture. A volunteer handing someone a clean pair of socks. A staff member calling someone by their name. A warm plate placed in front of a person who hasn't had anything hot in days. These small acts can mean everything to someone who feels invisible. Soup kitchens across Canada show that compassion is not abstract. It's practical, life-saving, and deeply human. On nights when temperatures fall below 20 degrees, a bowl of soup becomes more than nourishment. It becomes hope. Have you ever thought about how much a small act of kindness can change someone's entire day? Do you believe communities should invest more in volunteer-driven programs like these? If this message resonates with you, leave a comment sharing your thoughts, and don't forget to subscribe to US Homeless Stories so we can continue shining a light on the human realities behind Canada's homelessness crisis. A call to action, igniting change through community involvement. Across Canada, the homelessness crisis isn't just something you read about. It's something you feel when you walk through Vancouver's Downtown Eastside, or when you see a tent half buried under snow in Montreal. These scenes reveal a side of Canada that many prefer not to look at, yet thousands of people live this reality every single day. Nights drop to dangerous temperatures, shelters overflow, and too many individuals rely on thin blankets to shield themselves from cold that can steal breath and hope at the same time. This is the moment where real change must start, by seeing people not as statistics, but as lives worth fighting for. Communities nationwide are stepping up in ways that carry genuine heart. Vancouver has transformed aging hotels into safe rooms, so people can finally sleep indoors. In Toronto, volunteers hand out winter kits, mittens, heat packs, hot drinks to strangers huddled under building entrances. These efforts aren't grand or glamorous, but they're deeply human. In Calgary and Edmonton, local groups gather winter clothing and support Indigenous programs that help families reconnect, heal, and find stable housing. Montreal's outreach teams move through frozen streets bringing warm meals directly to encampments, offering not only food, but a moment of dignity and connection. This movement isn't limited to major cities. In Ottawa and Halifax, young volunteers are using social platforms to share stories, raise awareness, and push for policy changes that could finally shift the trajectory of this crisis. Their voices remind the country that compassion grows when people refuse to look away. And stories like Alex, a volunteer in Toronto who started with a small donation drive that grew into a network helping hundreds, show how one person's decision can ignite a chain reaction of humanity. Every Canadian has the power to create that spark. Maybe it's donating a coat you no longer wear, offering a few hours to serve meals, joining a point-in-time count, or simply amplifying the truth online so others understand the scale of the struggle happening right outside their neighborhoods. These actions may seem small, but to someone facing a bitter winter night, they can feel life-saving. If these stories move you, stay with us on US Homeless Stories. Your support helps shine a light on the people who need it most. If this message resonates with you, hit subscribe and join me in bringing their voices forward, because every act of compassion pushes Canada one step closer to real change. Conclusion. Canada is standing in a moment that feels heavier than statistics can ever explain. Behind the bright lights of Toronto and the calm beauty of Vancouver's coastline lies a quieter truth, one that many Canadians walk past without realizing. Every tent tucked under a bridge, every pair of tired eyes waiting outside a shelter, and every figure curled beneath a thin blanket in the snow reveals something deeper, a nation struggling to protect its own. What makes this moment so haunting is how easily a life can unravel in a country known for safety and opportunity. A sudden rent increase, a lost job, a winter that cuts through every layer of clothing. These things can push someone from stability to survival almost overnight. In Winnipeg or Edmonton, where the cold hits with brutal force, people are not just battling loneliness or poverty, they're fighting the weather itself. Nights drop to temperatures that no human body should have to endure outdoors, Yet many still do, clinging to hope with hands that can barely stay warm. Canada's homelessness crisis isn't loud. It doesn't shout for attention. It whispers through frostbitten fingers, through silent meals in crowded shelters, through the small acts of kindness strangers exchange just to get through another day. And that's the part many don't see, the humanity inside the struggle. The mix of fear, exhaustion, and dignity that people carry with them, even when they have nothing left but a backpack and a place in line outside a warming center. Still, there are flickers of hope. Volunteers pushing carts of hot meals through the snow. Nurses in mobile units treating wounds others never notice. Communities turning old motels into warm rooms where someone can sleep without shivering. These moments remind us that Canada's strength has always come from people choosing compassion over convenience. But the truth remains, this crisis won't fade unless Canadians decide it matters. It will take voices, loud, honest, united, to push for more affordable housing, better mental health support, and policies that don't leave people out in the cold. So the question becomes, what kind of country do we want Canada to be 5 years from now? A place where suffering continues in silence, or a place where no one is left behind? If you're watching this and these stories move you, even a little, leave a comment below. Tell us what you think Canada needs to change first. Your voice matters more than you know. And if you want to follow more real stories, more truth from the streets, and more moments that reveal the heart of this country, hit that subscribe button and stay with us on US Homeless Stories. Together, we can keep these conversations alive, and maybe one day, help someone find their way home.